Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Carrie Ann Auclair.
And I'm Renee Gagne. Together we serve as a Second Amendment resource for our communities.
And this is part 2 with Rep X. So thanks again for coming. I greatly appreciate it.
It's my honor.
So we have so much to talk about. I kind of wanted to start off, if I may, with what a Gold Star Dad means, and touch upon that a bit, because I know that's super, super important to your heart.
Yep. So it's something no one wants to be. It started in the World War I. So back in World War I, when someone had a loved one serving, they would put a little flag in their window with a blue star and a candle. And that told everybody that that family had a loved one in war. And you would pray. So we had that. My son Nick, just this handsome boy, he wanted to be a Marine, you know, and it comes from probably serving that he saw in our family, a military family, my dad, my grandfather. So he was affected by September 11th. A lot of kids were. He was 12, and he said to me, "Dad, I'm going to be a Marine." Like he said it that day.
Oh,
you
wow.
know? And I felt proud, but I felt afraid.
Yeah.
And then when he turned 17, the recruiter was in our house at the kitchen table in his dress blues, asking us to sign the papers so Nick could go, because he was underage. I'll never forget that. The pen felt like 1,000 pounds, you know, because we were in war, and he wanted to be an infantry Marine, you know. So we signed the papers, and he went on for another year of high school and graduated and went off to boot camp to earn the title of Marine infantry.
Wow.
Most dangerous job in the world. And there was no, phone calls, nothing, just letters. So we would get a letter. I couldn't wait to read it and write my own and send it back, and all that happened. And on September 22nd, 2006, Nick earned the title of Marine.
Wow.
With 500 other men at Parris Island, North Carolina. I could still see it, outdoors, 500 kids that went through 13 weeks of hell.
Yeah, it's a hard program.
It's the
for
hardest.
sure.
I love all the military, God bless them all, but Marines, it's a little different. But that day where they all, earn the title and get called Marine for the first time, and cannons, they had cannons blasting and swords, and it was really special. Makes you proud to be an American.
Right.
And Nick became a Marine, and he went off to Iraq and fought and was almost killed in Iraq, but 2 Marines saved his life. They died doing it.
Oh.
Jordan and Jonathan saved Nick's life. And when Nick got back, I could see in his eyes that he had changed, He saw death. And then he volunteered to go to Afghanistan. He wasn't, his unit wasn't supposed to go, but he begged to go to fight. And they took him, and he didn't have time to come home. So they usually get 3 weeks off, but they took him on a Sunday. They said yes on a Sunday, and he left on Friday. So we drove down, my wife and Nick's siblings, Alex, and my twins, Elizabeth and Ashlyn. We hopped in the Suburban, thank God, and we drove down there and got to see Nick and all his guys, and got to see him get on the bus, to go to the planes.
Is that where that picture comes
Yeah, so there's this picture that I call it the last hug. So, here's my son, going off to go to Afghanistan, and he's hugging me and I'm hugging him, and I'm wearing Jordan's wristband. Jordan is the Marine that died saving him.
Oh.
And in my hand is a prayer coin. It's called Footprints in the Sand, So we hugged each other. I didn't want to let him go, but I had to, and I gave him the coin, And then he gets on the bus with 1,000 other men. You know, it's an infantry battalion. They're going to war. For him, the second time, it was different. Like, he knew it was going to be bad. But he still volunteered to go. And I've never seen him since that day. That was May 15th, 2009. And on July 23rd, 2009, he was killed in combat, you know, trying to save his Marines. I've never seen his body. I've never felt him again. He just came home to me in a flag draped coffin. So the flag means a lot to me. We went from a Blue Star family to a Gold Star family. So they gave us a Gold Star flag to put in our window and a candle. It's still there. So if you see a Gold Star family, some people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, congratulations, you're a Gold Star father. You must be something special."
Yeah, they don't get it.
And I tell them, and they feel horrible. So if you know a Gold Star family, help them. The pain never goes away. You just learn to, like, kind of live with it.
Right.
But for us, you know, I went back to work. My brothers and sisters built me back up. I'm the leader of, you know, 65 people.
Do they have, because we don't know who's watching, we could have a Gold Star mom or dad that's
right.
watching. Is there support groups that they have?
There are, yeah, and I know we all kind of know each other because it's a horrible thing. And you know, in Massachusetts, we've lost hundreds in this, you know, remember that was the longest war in our history, 20 years of fighting. And the way we left is such a shame, especially to Gold Star families. And I went to the, you know, that horrible day when we lost 13. One of them was from Massachusetts, a woman, Marine.
Oh, yeah.
I met
That's
her
right.
family. I went to that funeral, and I saw the pain. And I kept saying that never should have happened. And that family is now broken. And we were broken. But some never can come back, and me, I just had it in me to try to come back, and we did. And we rode motorcycles, and we started a foundation, and we try to you know, raise money and awareness for Gold Star families. But we always say you can't change what happened to Nick. And there's 16 on the Cape. 16 were killed in the war. So Big Nick's Ride is every summer, 1,000 motorcycles. We honor all 16. But we do it for the ones that made it home.
Right.
Because
They're suffering too.
they suffer, and they should be treated like heroes.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's Vietnam, World War II, Afghanistan, Iraq, it doesn't matter. Like, these guys and girls are heroes.
Right.
So the ride is 1,000 motorcycles, but there's probably 50,000 people watching. And they're cheering, they're saluting, they're crying. And the veterans that ride, they feel the love.
My father was in Vietnam, and I know when he came back, he had a hard time.
It's a hard,
Yeah,
and many
really
don't
hard
talk
time.
about it. Now we have a lot of, you know, training so we raise money in Nick's foundation in his memory, and we put veterans with horses. We put veterans fishing. We
Animal
give
therapy.
them things to do to help them. But they miss each other. That's a big part of it. You miss each other when you go to war, and now you made it home, and you never see your friends. You miss each other.
Yeah,
So Big Nick's
they were
Ride,
family.
it brings, I never knew that, but at the end of one of the rides, it's been 15 years, you know, I drove my motorcycle to Nick's grave, and I explained to him what happened that day. And one year I rolled up, and there was like 20 Marines with Nick at sunset, and they were drinking and smoking and doing what Marines do. And they were all Nick's friends. And they said, you know, Papa X, they call me Papa X, like, you always thank us, but we need to thank you, you know? And I said, well, why do you want to thank me? He said, because you bring us together again.
That's so important too.
And there's a lot of survivor's guilt.
Yes.
My brother went overseas early 2000s with his friend John Van Geisen.
He was in a helicopter crash.
She's a Gold Star mom
Yes.
now. So John Sr., friends with my dad, both send their sons overseas. My brother was in the Army. Junior was in the Marines.
Yes,
And my brother came home.
yes.
I feel that ruined my dad and John's relationship because my dad could never handle the fact that his son survived and John's didn't. It's terrible.
I've seen it, and I always tell them, no, we're glad that your son made it home.
Right, right.
But there's so much guilt, and so at the graveside with all these Marines, they were telling me that they should be in the ground,
Oh.
that Nick should be
Right.
alive.
Oh.
So I've seen it and felt it, and I'm doing the best I can.
You've got a lot of angels guiding you,
Yes,
for sure.
and I was taught a lesson, and I think it's important to know, and I helped Sean Gannon's parents. So it's been 15 years, but I always felt, why? Why did God do this to Nicholas and my family? Why? Thousands served. That guilt, like why? And a Gold Star dad, Paul Monty from Raynham, his son was killed, and we're friends, right? And he has that song, I Drive Your Truck. Like, that's a real song, a real story. So in Big Nick's motorcycle ride, Mr. Monty drives the truck. And at the end of year 8, we stopped at the end, and I was crying on my motorcycle, and he said, "What's wrong, Steve?" And I said, "You know, Paul, I just don't know why." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, why did God do this, you know?" He said, "You don't know why?" I said, "No, and it's slowly killing me." And he said, "Come over here," and he put me on the back of Jared's truck, the truck that the song was sang about. And 2 old guys both lost their sons. He put his arm around me on the tailgate, and he said, "Steve, look at me." And he said, God saw Nick doing good things, and he needed to take him to do great things.
Yes, for sure.
There are people that have been in legislation for decades that haven't gotten as much accomplished as you have in your short tenure.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your service. I can't thank you enough. And you're one of the most humble, humble people I've ever met.
And honest.
Yes.
And that means a lot. So
Yes, that's just who we are, and no one's ever going to change that. So when my officer Sean Gannon was killed, and his parents were in front of me, a day later, I gave them the gift. I call that a gift. And I told Denise and Patrick, you know, this is horrible, but God saw Sean doing good things and needed to take him to do great things.
yep.
And we made Nero's law, we built a building, and we need to remember that there are bad people and they need to be incarcerated
Right.
to protect us from more tragedies.
Right.
So part of that, I call it the gift of doing good things, but we need to do great things. And I'm blessed to be doing this work
And
and
we're-
know you. And it's not just regular politics, it's true service.
Right. You're for the people. And
I'm for the people, and
Yep.
I have a protector in me.
And that makes you so special. And, you know, I've said this before, we need more people like you to
They're
step
out
up.
there. They're out there.
And there are, they
Yeah.
are. You're right, they
Yeah.
are. But, so, I know we wanted to talk about Dakota's law. We also
Yes.
wanted to touch upon the bill that's out right now
Oh,
that where
yes,
the conference
yes.
committee's talking about behind
Yes.
closed doors. It's not available to the public, and we don't know what the outcome's going to be. It could be worse, it could be better, it could be nothing. We just hope we can push it off until July 31st when its session ends, so hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that because people need to know. So it's at conference committee. 6 legislators are hand-selected to go over the 2 different bills. There was the House version, the Senate. I spoke at the podium against the House version.
Now,
and-
what bill is this for our is it 4129?
There,
There's
no
it's
real, it
changed
doesn't
now.
matter.
Yeah, it's like
It's
H,
just
it was
the
H
firearms
4139, then
bill.
it was, but
The big
now
firearms
it's,
bill.
Yep.
yes.
So it's at a conference committee now. They voted last Wednesday to make it private, which is what they typically do. So they'll meet and hopefully hammer out and come up with one. That's their mission, come up with one bill. And now if they are able to do that, it doesn't mean it passed. It doesn't mean it's law. It has to go to the House to be voted on by 160 of us. So that's where people need to speak out.
Right.
Right now, it's 6 people, and they're going to hammer it out. If it runs out of time, great. If it doesn't, they know better, right? That they need to get it to the House for a
Right.
vote. That's critical that we speak out if you're for it or against it.
So
That's
does
the
it
time.
matter? For
It
the
does
people,
matter.
It matters.
And anyone that's sitting on the sidelines complaining shouldn't.
Right.
Okay.
You need to make a phone call, you need to send emails, you need to stand out in front of the State House if you feel for it or against it. That's how it works. So it goes to the House, has to be voted on, and then it has to go to the Senate to be voted
So
on.
it
So there's a lot
matters.
more to this bill.
And if you're listening and you're not sure what's going on with the bill, email us. I'll give you the website you can look at to get the contact information, sistersinarms2022@gmail.com. Definitely call us, email us, and we'll give you what you need.
Yeah, and the problem with the bills is it's going to be a big bill. And there might be some good things in it, maybe, but it's all or nothing.
Right.
And that's where we have to use our voices. In my opinion, there's nothing good with any of the bills. We just need to go back to basics.
Right.
Enforce the laws, back up the police, prevent tragedies, hold people accountable, and put them behind bars where they belong if
Right.
they've been found guilty. We cannot have revolving door justice, and I'll add, we cannot have cashless bail. That's coming up.
Oh, God.
Where,
Right.
we're spending right now $75 million a month on the immigration crisis.
That just blows my
So
mind.
Massachusetts, because of the right to shelter law, in my opinion, we're the only state that has
Because
that.
we're not a sanctuary state.
We're not a sanctuary state. People think we are. There are cities and towns that are. They voted themselves that way, but the state is not. But we are a right to shelter state, the only one in the country.
Of course.
And it was passed in 1980.
Why not?
It was passed in 1983. And I don't think the intention in 1983 was to harbor and take care of the world.
Right.
Right.
It was to take care of our own.
Right.
And I have a bill that will be heard to fix the right to shelter law if they hear it.
Right.
So there is a bill. I have a petition on my website. You can click on it and sign it. And the more people we get, the better. But when it
Do
comes...
they have to be in your district? to
No,
sign it?
anywhere in the Commonwealth.
All right.
We need to, make some noise to get
So-
that bill heard.
So the noise we make is we want education for firearms all the time, we do, because it's that important.
Yes.
And the Act of 2014 says that the Colonel of the State Police needs to produce PSAs,
Yes.
specifically talking about training, where to find it, safe storage laws en masse, transportation laws, and that's never, ever, ever been done.
Right.
Because it's not funded.
So,
Exactly.
okay,
That's
so
where I'm
I
getting
want
at.
to ask this question because
Yes.
it seems so obvious to me. We don't have the funds for that, but we have $75 million a month. Can you help me make sense of this in my head?
Yeah,
I'm
in
going,
my opinion, it doesn't make sense,
Nope.
and it doesn't to most people. But because of this law from 40-something years ago, we have people coming from countries to Massachusetts, and we're doing everything for them. Everything. Housing, medical, this, that, everything. And I have a big heart. But to me, $75 million a month, we've spent $1 billion so far. Think about what we could do with that money.
Right. We need to take
Right
care
now,
of our own.
budgets are being cut, the police, fire, schools, those budgets are being cut because we have to pay for this. How do I know? I'm on the Ways and Means Committee.
Right.
Right? So there's a lot to it, but where I come from in the Fighting Fifth District, right? It's the 5th Barnstable District. I call it the Fighting Fifth because we've got to fight for what's right. I have Massachusetts born and raised citizens paying the state $17 a day to live homeless in the state forest. There's 41 families
Oh
doing
my
that.
gosh.
They're paying the state to live in the woods homeless when they go to work during the day.
It's
And
almost like
meanwhile, we're doing all this for people that are
we're
not
forgetting our
citizens.
own.
Yeah, and I think no one really probably planned this. It's just happening. But we've got to put a stop to it.
Right.
And use our money wisely to protect us. But it starts with the right to shelter law, in my opinion. That's the law. So they're following it. But why don't we have a hearing to discuss it and fix it?
Right.
Exactly.
Similar
Exactly.
to the gun stuff.
Right.
There's a
Right.
hearing
Right.
there.
You're hearing
Right.
gun laws all the time and fixing them.
Right.
Let's fix this.
Right.
And it doesn't mean we're bad people.
No,
Right.
it just means
It's
that we
just-
need to focus on what we need to focus on
Yes.
and make it better, because I feel like even with the gun bill, they're not focusing on what needs to be talked about. You know, like stop letting criminals back out in the street. You know,
Well,
hold them
we
accountable.
talked about in New Bedford, we talked about funding these programs that get the kids off the street, get them involved,
Yes.
because idle hands do the work of the devil.
Yes, and there's probably funds in the budget. Remember, our state budget is about $57 billion for 1 year. $57 billion for all these things, which are wonderful. But right now, we're spending $57 million of it every month. So we've spent $1 billion, and it's predicted to spend another $1 billion.
And still no firearm education.
And cutting budgets. And we have to fix that.
Yep.
But it's done through democracy, and it's done through who you elect, and we debate, and that's how
But
it
how
works.
come
Right.
But
some-
if there's no bill being
Right.
heard, that's
But how come
frustrating.
some laws are being followed and others aren't? The state has an obligation. This is a law, 2014, the Act
no
of
funding.
2014.
It was
fund it.
probably, you'd have to look at it, but that's why bills are so
Yeah.
touchy. And titles, be careful of titles. Safe Communities Act sounds like a good idea. What does that mean? It doesn't allow law enforcement to speak with ICE.
Right.
It's safe for the illegal immigrants, but they call it the Safe Communities Act.
Right.
So on that bill, it was probably passed, and there was a line that we're going to do that, but it might say subject to funding.
Yep, I think it does.
It does not say subject to
It
funding.
doesn't?
Okay.
No, I thought it did. But
It'd
it
be a
doesn't
nice-
matter. They
it'd be a
didn't
nice
fund it.
out, but yeah, no.
Or we speak out enough
Yes.
and find $1 million
Right.
to do it.
Right.
Because we should.
Right.
Because we have safe gun laws. Like, I know it, I'm a cop.
Right.
And we should, to a
Right.
certain extent.
Of
We've
course,
done
we
all
all
that.
want safe
But
communities.
the average person doesn't realize we've already done all that.
Right.
So they think we got to do more.
Right, right.
And I say, no, let's take a break and let's focus on what we can do to make us safer.
And I think they
Right.
make it to the point, saying the average person. The average person might not understand anything that they're looking at when when you're looking at a bill. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, oh, I can't understand this. I'm not going to do anything. I don't get it. And then they're afraid to call their reps. They feel like they're at, I'm not stupid, but I need to call. You need to call your reps. You need to ask them to explain the bill to you. You know, you saw
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I'm confused. Can you explain this? Can you have a meeting? Can we talk?
Absolutely.
And-
Or do your own research. Like I have people that say, "Well, where did you learn?" I learned it on Facebook. Like that's one thing, but like do some research,
Right.
or just listen to the person that you trust.
Right.
Like you don't have to read the 130 pages if you can trust in me when I say no, we don't need that.
Right.
Like, that's another way to do
Right.
it. Or you trust someone that says no, we do.
Right. And we have
But-
other organizations like Goal, and I'm sure there's
Yes,
other organizations that's not
yes.
regarding gun bills that will take a bill, I don't want to say rip it apart, but put it down so the average Joe or Jane can actually understand
Yes,
it.
or just realize Massachusetts has a lot of gun laws. We don't really need new ones
Right.
until we fix what's happening now, which
Right.
is, holding people accountable.
Right.
And supporting the police.
What-
Elected officials
right.
should not be criticizing law enforcement.
Right.
They should be praising them.
We got about 4 minutes, and I know
Okay.
we wanted to talk quickly upon Dakota's law.
Yes. So Nero's law, right, means that if a police dog is injured in the line of duty, they will be given first aid treatment by 20,000 EMTs and paramedics in the They've all been trained. I've been to the trainings. It's an amazing thing to see.
Wow.
Men and women that never met Sean, learning about Sean's story and learning how to save a dog. That's Nero's law. Dakota's law is a real story. That's my next bill, that Dakota's a real dog from Boston area, police dog. He was involved with the Boston Marathon bombing. He was sent into that boat to get that murderer out during the shootout and explosions. He developed PTSD, and they were going to put him down because all he did was run in circles, run in circles, run in circles. He had PTSD just like a human. So a man named James from Seekonk found out, took him, saved him from being killed, and they made a movie. It's called Healing Dakota.
Oh.
And they show this year-long process of a dog that all it wanted to do was run in circles.
I
and
just
bite.
saw that on Netflix, the exact dog that the whole,
that's
oh my
the
gosh.
movie.
Wow.
Yep.
And Dakota's law is the bill I've filed with others that says, look, if a Massachusetts police dog is injured in the line of duty, mentally or physically, that we're going to pay those bills. We're not going to put the dog down.
Right.
And it's not all tax dollars, it can be donations.
Yeah, that's
So we want to make a fund that will be used to save these dogs' lives.
Isn't there a blood drive too? We got 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, so Nero, right, is alive, thank God, because of a blood transfusion. So last year, for the first time ever, on April 12th, the day that Sean was killed and Nero shot, we did a blood drive where dogs come and get screened to
crazy.
donate blood. So this year, on April 12th, 2024, from 10 to 2 at the Bourne Police Station, you will see 50 dogs waiting in line to get screened.
My
to
dog will
donate
be one
blood.
of those
Wonderful.
dogs.
And the Gannons will be there, and we cry
That's
and
great.
we smile and we hug these beautiful dogs, and we make a kind of a something good out of something bad.
Yep.
So Sean's death has turned into many good things.
And saved
And that's
many
my
lives.
job to do that, I feel.
Yeah.
Just like Nick.
Yep.
And but both of those things never should have happened in a way, but that's sometimes what happens to people, especially good people that put themselves in those positions and give their lives so others can keep theirs.
Awesome. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
God bless you.
We've run out of time
I
again.
know.
We could do it this
We
for
could do
another
this all
hour.
day long, Rep.
So thank you so much for joining Sisters in Arms. We greatly appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions at all, any suggestions, sistersinarms2022@gmail.com. Until next time,
Stay
safe
and
keep
stay
vigilant.
Yes, yes. God bless America.
God bless
God
America.
Bless America.